Thanks, Cora. I'm delighted to have a brief opportunity to speak on this important motion brought forward by my colleagues, Deputy Maureen O'Sullivan, Deputy Claire Daly and the other members of the Independence for Change Technical Group, and I want to commend my colleagues on this. And while there has been some tiny progress in animal welfare since the 2013 Act, there are still increasing reports of animal cruelty, loopholes in regulation and insufficient monitoring and enforcement across the spectrum of animal care. And as Deputy O'Sullivan said, Minister, I think you told the House this time last year that there had only been 13 successful prosecutions under the 2013 Animal Health and Welfare Act in 1 year, and that there were 38 prosecution files being processed at that time. These numbers seem incredibly low, given the many millions of animals reared each year. I think right now we have something like 11.5, 12 million basic domestic farm animals in the Republic alone. As you know, on the 21st of March this year, I introduced the Welfare of Greyhounds Amendment Bill 2017. I asked you about it earlier on, Minister, whether or not you could incorporate this bill into the bill on the greyhound industry, and I found your reply a few hours ago a bit disappointing, because, as you know, all we were seeking to try and do in the bill was to control the export of greyhounds and to provide for publication of the white list to which the export of greyhounds under licences would be permissible, and to make it an offence to export a greyhound to a country that's not included in the white list. Over recent years, of course, the welfare of our dogs being exported and racing and retired greyhounds, it's obviously become a major campaign issue. We know that Irish greyhounds were exported to Macau, China, to race in the famous Yat-Yuen Cannondrome, and obviously the public is very upset about reports of this, and that at the end of the day dogs are raced to death and then ended up somewhere in the food chain. The response, I think, from our government and the Greyhound Board regarding the export of our Irish dogs to countries with appalling or no animal welfare standards whatsoever, it has so far been totally useless, Minister. So while the white list that we proposed in the Welfare of Greyhounds Amendment Bill 2017, it can't provide at the moment for the selling on from other jurisdictions, it does give Ireland the opportunity to be a leader in this area. I did listen very carefully, of course, Minister, to campaigners who basically want the export of greyhounds beyond these islands stopped completely. I also welcome contacts with MEP Nessa Childers to discuss the work of the European Parliament Animal Welfare Intergroup this autumn, and the possibility that the European Parliament obviously can establish centres across the current 28 European countries. The Greyhound Rescue Association, of course, claims that there are around 38 greyhounds being put down monthly, and traceability issues remain also because greyhounds are not microchipped from birth. And the GRA, of course, claimed that up to 10,000 of our wonderful Irish greyhounds could be unaccounted for each year. And of course, earlier in the year, as I mentioned this afternoon, Minister, broadcaster Sharon Ní Bheola on prime time, they aired the famous programme Gone to the Dogs, which put the spotlight on doping and the poor regulation generally in the greyhound industry in Ireland. Obviously, this is an area you said earlier on that you had concerns about, and perhaps in your response you might come back in a fuller way and to talk about that. And of course, animal welfare extends not only to our greyhounds but to all our animals. And in keeping with the theme of racing animals for profit, I also want to echo the comments of Deputy O'Sullivan in regard of coursing hares. Just last week I asked the Minister for Culture, Heritage and the Gaeltacht, Ms Heather Humphreys, Deputy Heather Humphreys, to report on the monitoring of coursing trials around the country, whether breaches of trial rules have taken place in the last number of years, and what the repercussions for the breach of the coursing club's trials rules, what are those repercussions? And she said that hare coursing meetings are monitored as resources allow by conservation rangers of the National Parks and Wildlife Service of my department. However, she goes on to say that due to a lack of resources, no monitoring whatsoever took place in 2015-2016. My colleague has mentioned the abuse of other beautiful animals, such as the minks, and indeed the range of other animals. And of course, it has to be said that Perhaps we do need to change and to look into the future and change the structure, indeed, of our whole agriculture, which did develop into a very industrial system when I was a child and we were rearing pigs and cattle and sheep, and on a different system, on a much more sustainable system. But this incredible industrialised process, which currently produces 33% of our carbon emissions and does involve, we've just mentioned the transporting of live animals, does involve considerable cruelty to our animals, is something that we have to start moving away from. We have a wonderful land minister. We have the resources to have a much more sustainable type of agriculture as well, and I think we should move towards that. Thanks, Ken.
Thank you. Deputy Wallace.